What is up, Internet? It's Father Benjamin and Dennis. We are back for week. I don't know. I can't hardly tell what day it is, much less what week it is.
Well, today is today, and welcome. We're not rushing through it. It'll be today until it ends, and then it'll be tomorrow.
We're happy you're here.
That's right.
I probably look like minimum 10 years younger to you. That's because I don't have facial hair anymore. I haven't seen this much of my face in 6 years, and I feel rather immodest. I feel like a mask is a good, makes me feel more modest.
Did you have to do the shaving in steps where first you take it part way down and then you shave it again?
Yeah. It's like shave down with the grain and then re-lubricate and go up against the grain, get a little closer.
Fun.
That's not the word I would use, but anyways.
So you're in mourning that you don't have your beard.
Beard will be back in time. Bottom line was, I was kind of like figuring I'd do this at some point, and then it was Mother's Day, and I was like, hey Mom. And I know she just wanted to see my face. Oh. So I was like, here's your baby boy.
That's cute.
Yeah, it was nice.
That's a nice Mother's Day gift.
Yeah.
Did you wear a mask?
No, I actually went up there and I brought my razor with me, and she watched me shave it off.
Oh, nice. There you go. If you're looking for something to do next Mother's Day, get your sons to shave their beards.
I don't know if I would have shaved the whole beard for her. Sorry, Mom. But, well, I don't know. If she had asked for it, like, this is the only thing I want for Mother's Day, I probably would have done it for her.
Really? In this time of wearing our trusty social distancing masks,
yes,
doesn't not having a beard make it a little easier? Because I'll tell you what, you got to be careful with these things. Every once in a while, you do want to lower your mask and breathe oxygen. Because I am finding that, boy, I'm a lot more tired at night from breathing through this thing.
Wow.
Because you do breathe more labored.
Yeah. That's fascinating. Makes sense.
I was talking with a pharmacy tech today who said, yeah, that's why you're resisting your airflow, you're working harder, you're also resisting more carbon monoxide, so you really do want to, when you're alone, give yourself a breather for safety's sake.
Or when you're doing something that's super essential, like providing a book study for people, take your mask off for a short time.
Yeah, otherwise...
I remember there was a guy at my gym who, like, he would come into the basketball arena and he would just practice drills, but he would wear this mask that restricted his breathing.
Build up his resistance.
It made it like training at altitude.
That's clever.
So yeah, I was like, wow, that's fascinating. But that was like 7 years ago. So it had nothing to do with the pandemic. Fascinating deal. So welcome back. I hope you enjoyed this week on simplicity. We're going to review real quick now some of the homework assignments, the exercises that were suggested. And if you did one of these, right, if you went through the exercise on clothing or on stuff, number 2. There we go, yes. And or if you went through number 3, papers, or the other thing that was your budget, your schedule. We'd love to hear about those. What did you do? What did you glean from it? Please feel free to just chime in, and we'll stop periodically and take your responses while we're talking about our reflections on simplicity.
Did you do one, Father?
I had every intention of doing this last one on budget and schedule, and I basically worked on the church's schedule, is what I did. How we're going to reopen and all that fun stuff, trying to adjust it. So yeah, this is one of those times where I'd have to say, sorry teacher, my dog ate my homework. And
I started the first one, if you want to scroll back.
On clothing.
So I changed it up a little bit because frankly it's just a lot easier just to make 2 piles, keep or give away, rather than selling and all those other options.
Yeah.
But at least, so we started. And what's interesting is there's another exercise in there about trying to condense your outfits to like 33 articles of clothing that you just use those for 3 months.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm at 33, but I don't use all the clothes in my closet, which we found a lot of things that they've just been in storage, and some of them look like new. They've been just in the closet, and you tend to grab, what you grab. I mean,
Right.
I'm in a short sleeve shirt today. I don't usually come to work like this, but with the church being open, we have to sanitize the church every night. So
when they're working.
So I've been dressing a little different this week as we're doing a lot of elbow grease in the church.
Yeah.
But it was interesting. I'm not done, but we got the pile started.
It's a great exercise. When I moved across town, we did a lot of that, and it does feel good to just unload some of that stuff. And I think what he said about it kind of making you feel a little bit more free. Mm-hmm. I'm a believer.
Well, there's a lot of stuff that we just don't need. When I moved to Florida, I was moving from colder climates, so there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
That, even suit coats up north, they're made a lot heavier than they are here. And I have suit coats that, even though they fit, the truth is here I won't wear them. They're just too hot. So it's time to get rid of them.
Yeah, good call. Or to send them back north to somebody who
Right.
Hey, this guy takes the clothing minimalism to the extreme. John Mark Comer, and I was like kind of blown away by like how much he's whittled it down. I thought, what he said about polyester really stunned me. It was like, and that will exist forever in a landfill.
Yeah.
And it's like, it doesn't break down over time. You go, oh my gosh, thank you 1970s for all the polyester influence.
Yeah.
But I think that's really amazing and admirable. I mean, obviously that's a very advanced level of like taking it all down to where like in the summertime he has 2 outfits. I was like, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Like I'm not mad at him. I'm like, good for you. Obviously you don't need to do that, follow Jesus, but I do think that like trending in that direction is really positive. And this guy obviously found that it was really rewarding for him, so he just kept going with it.
I know some young adults who they're just be spiritually close to the earth and be good stewards of creation, that they try to have all of their clothing be able to fit into a small suitcase. Kind of the opposite of my mother and her generation, where if they're going on a 3-day trek, you got to rent a U-Haul. But it's impressive. I mean, my son is dating a gal who's like that, and basically all of her clothes she can fit into one suitcase, and
that's wonderful.
Very, very minimalist, and it's admirable.
Yeah.
And her whole thing is, hey, in today's world, if you want to be able to go places and do things, you got to learn how to live small.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's like the tiny house thing too, right?
Yeah.
Like people taking cargo, what do they call them? Those big metal boxes and just breaking them down into homes.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
It's ingenious on a lot of levels. Cool. Let's jump straight into simplicity then, and we'll just wait to hear back from you guys a little bit about the exercise. And at the end of the episode, we'll come back and we'll intro slowing. And just as a forewarning, slowing is like it's the last of the chapter. We're gonna go ahead and add the epilogue onto that. So just next week, last episode of the book discussion, and we were just talking the other day about how fun it would be once it's reasonable to do so, to have like a little book club reunion and have everybody come and we can social distance together and maybe have like I don't know, drink a bottle of water and talk. It'll be really fun.
It'd be nice to meet you all for sure, face to face.
That'd be awesome. So what stuck out to you as like a big takeaway?
Well, the first thing I put in my notes, and I think we mentioned this early on, maybe like in the first or second week, but this was actually where it comes up in the reading, and it's just pinged right out to me. God's kingdom is just, and simple living gives a person greater focus. Yeah. And in the USA, we've shifted from roughly 90% of our households living in agricultural areas a year ago to only about 2% today. So 100 years ago, we were a lot less consumer driven, and I just made note of that, and I'm really conscious of it right now as we're looking at all the, if you go to the grocery store, all the signs that are there, limits on this, limits on that, because, we've been living a lot fatter than they did a century ago.
Yeah.
Not just me.
No, I think what you're saying, I was stunned by that. 90% of Americans were on some level farming.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And for that to be industrialized now, down to where like only 2% of people are doing that kind of work is shocking. It's absolutely, now I've only been around for the last 35 years, and how much I've been paying attention to that kind of thing, far less. So you go 100 years ago, it's big scale is not that long ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that there's something so good about having your hands in the dirt and like being close to our food sources, and it's simpler. It really, and in a virtuous way, right? Not in like this, like, oh, the simpletons are looking down on it or something. I just think about even like the joy that I've had from watching my little sunflowers sprout in the backyard. They're only like 4 or 5 inches tall right now, tiny little things, but like you put the seed in the ground, then you watch them grow. I've got, like probably 8 different sprouts that are coming out, and go, wow, that's miraculous.
And those things will grow.
Yeah.
Are they the tall ones?
They're the big ones. Yeah. They've got potential for like 12, 14 feet.
Wow.
They're like mammoth sunflowers, they're called. I'm not sure if they're as big as an actual mammoth. Probably the mammoth wins, but it's just a flower. So yeah, it's one of the things that stuck out to me. First of all, he talks about a lot of Jesus's sayings, right? His teachings, his scriptures on this, both at the beginning and at the end of the chapter. And he's pulling from different things. I'm just going to go over a few of them because it's good to have the Word of God on hand like this. And in particular, I think these are very poignant. There's something about the way Jesus turns a phrase that just cuts straight to it, isn't there?
Mm-hmm.
All right, here we are. Watch out. Be on guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions. If life doesn't consist in an abundance of possessions, then what does? Right? Well, it's not life, whatever's there. How about this one? Sell your possessions, and give to the poor. Wow, that's really direct. Do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothes? Seek first God's kingdom. The worries of this life, the deceitfulness of wealth, and the desires of other things come and choke the word, making it unfruitful. Again, I tell you, it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for someone who is rich to enter the kingdom of God. I think just having that up front, when you start looking at like a whole chapter on grappling with wealth and money and possessions and stuff and clothing, spending power, like really sets a pretty dramatic tone if we're trying to listen to Jesus. And I mean, he says as much. It can really challenge, and it can make you downright uncomfortable. And I think a lot of it comes from, and he gets to this later, is as Americans. So, well, back it off. Yeah, just by being an American, you're almost no matter what at like the 10% of the wealthiest people on the planet. Right now, with some of the political ongoings of our day and the different ideas that are being tossed around on how we should make sure everyone's provided for, and what the economic responsibilities of the nation are for the individuals and all that, you hear a lot about the 1%ers, right? And the reality is that if you make $34,000 a year in America, then you are amongst the richest 1% in the world, right? You're not in America because America is so abundantly wealthy, but that's absolutely startling.
Yeah.
Because I just really resonated with what he said. It was like, oh, when Jesus is talking about rich people, he's talking about somebody else. Well, like that depends on what your context is, right? But if you split the whole world up into a bunch of groups of 100 people, and you walked into your assigned room, you would probably be the wealthiest person in that room. If not, for sure in the top 10. Probably, if you have like a job that you work 40 hours a week, then probably you're the wealthiest person there. That is absolutely like, we're not used to hearing that, you know? And we've been taught and we've been told for so long how ambitious and how driven we need to be in order to hustle and make more money. And it's like, that's really worth like asking questions of, right? Is that really, first of all, is it congruent with the gospel? And will it fulfill on its promises, you know? And I think there's just no and no.
That's right. That's right.
But we take for granted because it's just a cultural, like, I don't know, dogma.
Yeah, it's a great point. Maybe, Father, you want to cover what this is? And I apologize, everyone, but we've got the church open tonight, and so our ushers are asking me a question. I've got to take this. It's totally against everything we've been teaching, but I apologize.
From time to time, these things happen, right? So, Lee McCombs, thanks for chiming in again, Lee. Exercise 2, she worked on stuff, piles up until we have the thrift shop. I love it. So, Lee, that thrift shop, right now, we can't bring it back. We've got the masses open up, but I'm thrilled to hear that, you're willing to part with some of that stuff and let it find a new home. They say one man's trash is another man's treasure. Right. It's kind of a nice thing.
Yeah, and Lee, I heard that Goodwill isn't open either. I don't know if that's true. I didn't verify it, but my box isn't going to be in my garage, I think, for a little while.
Yeah. You know, that was one of the things that I was thinking about when he was talking about giving stuff away or selling your possessions or whatever is, also when we talk about, when you hear the words the rich, right, that's always somebody else, right? And when we think about the poor, I think for a lot of us, quickly we start seeing like the images of people in third world countries that we've seen on television, right? It's very far removed from a lot of our experiences unless you've been on mission. And the reality is America still has poor people, right? Like,
Right.
And it's not that we need to look at them and label them like, oh, those are the poor people, right? But there is poverty in our area. And so like, what about just being creative about looking for ways to make connections, to build some kind of systematic support, and it doesn't have to be like it's great that we have something like the thrift shop or Goodwill or whatever, but also how cool is it when it can be really direct, like from one community to another?
Yeah,
I think it's something to shoot for. We're not there yet, but
we in our family, my wife, as you know, is from Venezuela, and we know people that have come from Venezuela, and my parents have given furniture that they're no longer using and things. Say, hey, if you know anybody could use this, and somebody comes and they have no furnishings, and we've given that away, and it's been great because we just last week heard a story in our family of somebody, and they had gotten furniture. They had moved a couple times since then. They've improved in working status and all of that stuff, and so they've got other stuff. But they acquired some nicer things, but they're like, nope, we are keeping this forever because this was a gift that this was like the first piece of furniture that somebody gave us that was really nice. Yeah. And it was like, we were like, wow, that's really cool. That was our Mother's Day gift because my mother was telling us the story.
That's cool.
And it was kind of neat, So people really appreciate that if you reach out and take care of them.
Yeah. Well, you were just talking about ushers a minute ago, and I think Vicky might be one of our ushers. Isn't she?
Yeah, Vicky is a stellar usher. Thanks for all your help, Vicky.
Should take hers.
Yeah, so she says, I worked on clothing, but after reading how much he has done with his clothes, it's time to take another look.
Hey, all right.
As long as you're trying and you keep trying, that's the thing. Don't give up. Keep looking.
Yeah. The other thing there is like things in time, right? Like it might be good to revisit once you've stepped away from it sometimes. You know, like I know sometimes I can overwhelm myself, like put too high of an expectation, and then it's like, oh, I really wasn't ready to give that away. Or
well, one of the challenges for me, I want to see if I'm brave enough to maybe let go of one of my more favorite outfits, you know, because then that will be a real pain of sacrifice.
Yeah.
You know, so you can give away, I don't use this stuff, it's easy to give away, but when I give away something that, you know what, I wear this a lot, it's comfortable, I like it, but maybe, you know.
Maybe I need to break
maybe
it
I don't
something
need it.
else.
Yeah.
Yeah, the wants versus needs is a really great, you know, I mean, like, it's something that's been on my mind a lot. I think as I was in formation and like going from one dorm room to another for year after year, you know, I spent like a total of a decade in studies after high school, so it's a lot of college.
Yeah.
And it's better to have kind of a simple routine. I could tell some stories on myself, but I don't know. We've got a lot to cover tonight. Another day, ask me about the first time I moved out of a college dorm. That's a good one.
Because you had a lot more than you could fit in your car, or?
Well, let's put it this way. I didn't have all proper like crates and boxes and things, and I procrastinated terribly. So like you're supposed to move out like during finals week, and the punchline is kind of that I wound up throwing everything on my bed and just wrapping the corners of the sheets around it and spinning it, and like I look like Santa Claus like walking out with this makeshift like knapsack thing. It was hilarious.
I worked with a priest once that he said everything I own has to fit into my car.
Yeah.
So it's
I had that rule for a time.
Yeah. And the car gets too small.
Yeah. I was thinking like, I've definitely accumulated more than that. You know, I didn't need a U-Haul to move out of seminary, and I didn't need one for my first 2 assignments, but I needed one this time. I'm like, maybe I need to start paring it back. And my closet is sort of like it's too full, and I'm looking forward to it. Those would be some good exercises. Even though we're almost done reading the book, those exercises are there for us to keep working on. But keep growing into it, right? Like he didn't like just do this and then write a book. Like this is a big process.
Sure.
I was really struck about. I was just thinking about like in context of everything that we read about when it comes to the government stimulus, right? Because we've got this culture that tells us we're supposed to work really hard and make a lot of money and be really successful. And I think it was last week he kept talking about the twin gods of accumulation and accomplishment. And in the midst of that, right? When something bad happens and we want to feel secure and we want to make sure the economy keeps moving, what does that mean? It means that people keep spending and people keep working, and we keep kind of some societal norms to make ourselves feel like there's stability. So what do? The president and politicians all got together and said, we're going to give everybody money that doesn't exist. We're going to make... What are we doing? We're empowering them with spending power, right? So I'm not saying it's a political power play, but we're viewing this thing kind of through a lens of power, right? But government given spending power is kind of like manipulating people into supporting each other, right? Because what happens if people stop spending money? Then everybody just lives off their own savings, and some have more than others. And what we really need is for there to be circulation, right? And so there's this like forced sense of security, but it's based on just government say so, versus a culture that would be totally based, and this is not the reality we live in, right? But if the world lived on the gospel, there wouldn't be a need for stimulus, right? That if instead of viewing the world through a lens of power, even if that's spending power, and we looked at everything through a lens of love, then it would just be like, here's what I have, here's what I need, what other people need, let me make sure they have what they need. Hey, wait, I need this also, but I don't have that. You have that? Okay, can I have some of that? And if we were all just giving to each other, we wouldn't need the government to manipulate us into giving to each other.
So all of you toilet paper hoarders out there, just remember, If you have enough for your need, then give some for the rest who have not.
Oh man.
Yeah, but that really is the principle that struck out to me too. That consumerism breeds consumerism, and how do you find the just balance in that, where everyone can have a place and have what they need to live, and that's a challenge for all of us. I wrote in my notes, Jesus advocated for treasures in heaven.
Yeah.
Simplicity and minimalism are not living with nothing, but just rather living with less. And I think that's really what we're talking about. How do we get by with just what we need, and we don't need to take more than that? Because in principle, that might mean if we're taking more than what we need, we're taking something from someone else who really needs it.
Yeah.
And then back to the toilet paper.
And so then, Dennis, I feel like maybe you've been burned in this area.
With the toilet paper?
Yeah, I mean, we got enough around the office and everything.
Yeah, but we got to save that for who knows how long we're going to be dealing with this. No, we've been pretty lucky, but I laugh. It is the first thing everyone checks when they go to the grocery store, and it is hard to find.
It's weird.
Pretty soon it'll be beef, toilet paper. You have to choose.
God, I hope not. There's a block quote here on page 185, and it talks about, all right, where does this consumerism come from, right? Is this advertising being used as propaganda? The conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society. Those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government, which is the true ruling power of our country. Think about that for a second, right? Like, who's really running the show? We are governed, our minds are molded, our tastes formed, our ideas suggested largely by men we have never heard of. In almost every act of our daily lives, we are dominated by the relatively small number of persons who pull the wires which control the public mind. That's like some Orwellian sounding kind of thinking, but I think that there's something to it, right? I mean, they're purporting to sell you happiness, and at the very end of the day, when we're also being driven by I want and I fear, and somebody's saying, here, this will, give me your money and I'll give you happiness, and that's not how it used to work. It used to be like, here's what this thing will accomplish, and if you need those things, then you should buy it, But there wasn't like a promise of like status or beauty or joy or something. It was just a product. It was just a thing.
Yeah.
But now it's not a thing. It's an identity.
Right. Right. Yeah, I don't know what if, maybe some of you could chime in, but what has been your experience of in our reading? St. Francis de Sales said, "In everything, love simplicity." He was quoted in our reading, and what has been your experience of trying in this process to kind of find that equilibrium or balance of loving simplicity in how you live and what you do? We'd be interested in hearing a little bit about your experience of that. Another thing that I really liked from today's reading was this idea of just trying to practice a just ethic of happiness, of living in that simplicity, but embracing it in a way that you just sort of find the fullness and the happiness of life without all of the clutter and busyness and distraction, And then in that, how do you evaluate or measure the true costs of the crazy life that we sometimes live, so that you can really stay true to finding ways to avoid the impulse after we get done with this study of jumping back into what you did before, which tends to be the human nature. Well, history comes back around and we make the same mistakes we did before, unless we're real intentional about being different. That's how conversion works. Yeah. And I really could resonate with that.
Yeah. That the actual cost of something, not just the ticket price.
Right.
Not just, but also, is there insurance involved, and maintenance fees and fuel costs and then the time budget. Like, I see this thing and I'm very attracted to it, but do I have time to use it even? Like, does it fit with my lifestyle?
Right.
Are all really good questions to ask.
Yeah, or buying, or when you're, even, the ones that are popular things, like if you buy coffee, is it coffee that, I forget the term they use, but, it's justly grown, meaning that the growers are paid justly and the workers are, treated justly and so forth. All those things kind of start to roll into this. But if you're living the unhurried life, you actually sort of find more time to be reflective and analytical about those things, so you make better decisions.
Yeah. And you find it worth it, I think.
Right, yeah.
Tim Casper says, good to have spousal approval when eliminating stuff. Tim, I don't have that problem. unless we're talking about church property.
Yeah, I guess I'm not sure what you're meaning, Tim. I mean, I know what you're saying there, but are you suggesting you were trying to give away your stuff, or your spouse was trying to give away your stuff? Or maybe you were trying to give away her stuff.
Yeah, or maybe it was something that he thought was his, but she also thought it was hers.
Oh, that could be too. Those could be wars.
Suffice to say, right, that when you make a household, it's like what's mine is yours, what's yours is mine, and so yeah, that's
the motto I live by.
I think there's wisdom there, Tim.
Yeah.
There's another block quote here on 187 that really caught me. The title of this book in itself deserves its own quote. The journalist Greg Easterbrook, in his book The Progress Paradox, How Life Gets Better While People Feel Worse. What a title. He notes this: adjusting for population growth, 10 times as many people in the Western nations today suffer from unipolar depression or unremitting bad feelings without a specific cause. Can we just full stop for real quick, we'll come back? Unremitting bad feelings without a cause. Something tells me that it's probably just a cause that we haven't found, because it's one of our cultural assumptions of what everybody should have, right? Unremitting bad feelings without a specific cause then did a half century ago, right? So in the last 50 years, we're really terribly unhappy. Americans and Europeans have ever more of everything except happiness. We're being lied to, regularly, I love it when people just shine a light on this stuff. Right? It's just good to live in reality.
Yeah.
It's so refreshing to be able to see what's real,
Yeah. Yeah, I think Pope Francis, coming from the third world, has been good for the church in that respect, and really trying to empower or re-empower, if you will, a return to finding joy and mercy and the authenticity that comes with that. The reading you just had of, what strikes me, if you're in that unipolarness of just unrelenting negative feelings or negative thoughts, or however that shapes, what that says to me is you just don't have enough of an opening in your life to find that joy and let it sort of push that stuff out. We all have our ebbs and flows at times, but we're intended, God intended us to be happy and to feel good, not to be bad or feel bad and so forth. So we got to try to live into that, and it's not 100%. There are challenges in life, but we should have that capacity that we can reset and connect with that goodness. And the sacraments are certainly moments where that renewal takes place. And what happens in every single one of the sacraments is they are slow moving, and there are open moments. There's moments of silence, there's moments of grace, there's moments of reflection, every one of the sacraments.
Yeah.
I don't know if, by design in its own way, but I don't know that it was, somebody intentionally thought it all up that way, but
Sure.
that's how they play out.
Yeah. Well, and there's moments where the sacraments are really powerful and where they just feel really regular, right?
Mhm.
Really normal. And it's like you were saying, we're meant to have those ups and downs throughout life. What if you're one of those people that's feeling stuck in unipolar depression?
Yeah, you're consumed and then you're lost.
I gotta say, I really think that does seem to correlate with the direction the culture has been in this turning in, I call it the me monster, right? And like being so concerned with our own wants and comforts and agendas, and as soon as you start looking out, right, that opening that you talked about, so important. Living in that reality and the truth of that reality is so important. And I love how he kind of puts out that objective, like fundamental grounding of something like a scientific law, right? We give a lot of credit to guys like Einstein and Newton and these guys who write these laws, but they didn't make the law, right? What they did, well, insofar as a law is a statement, they made a statement that factually corresponds with reality. So the moral law is a statement about what corresponds with reality, right? So when Jesus goes off, and this is where I want to get back to the book again, because we're getting back to Jesus' statements here, and he speaks best on his own behalf. Well, there's a lot of them. I'm gonna jump to the chase here a little bit. No one can serve two masters. Either you hate one and love the other, or you will be deceived you be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and man. Again, not should, can't, right? That you can't serve two masters. You can try to serve two masters, but you won't be able to. So for Jesus, this is a non-option. You cannot serve God and the system. You simply can't live the freedom way of Jesus and get sucked into the overconsumption that is normal in our society. The two are mutually exclusive. You have to pick. And if you're on the fence about it, as I was for years, the next line from Jesus was the clincher for me. Therefore, I tell you, do not worry about your life. I love it.
Yeah, it's like powerful.
It's just so refreshing. Don't worry about your life. And so if I am worried about my life, what does that mean? It means like the truths of the universe that Jesus has revealed to us just haven't pierced deep enough yet, right? I haven't integrated it yet. And here we're being invited into this incredible project of greater integration with the gospel.
I love it.
Yay for us.
I love it. Another thing I had in my notes was contentment, and I don't remember now why I put that, but I think if I were to sum up this week's reading, and then also the feelings of, doing my 2 piles of clothes, what I'm keeping and giving away, there was a certain amount of contentment that breeds in that whole experience, because I don't know, I felt this great sense of accomplishment. And actually my wife and I even started talking about, should we redo this bathroom, start putting some money aside and fix this up or fix that up, because I think we just started getting more invested in what we have and what is important as we're moving clutter into the piles and saying we don't need this, we're not using it, someone else can make use of it.
Yeah.
We've been exercising those same principles in the parish for the last several months too, of really trying to pare down just a lot of things that have accumulated over the years that we don't use and we don't need, and if there's others that can use it, we've been trying to move those things out so that we can make room and better take care of the things that are essential around here.
Yeah, and there's contentment in that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a great quote at the end of the chapter. Contentment isn't some Buddhist-like negation of all desire. it's living in such a way that your unfulfilled desires no longer curb your happiness. It's kind of a refrain that I come back to is like, why are you delaying your happiness?
Yeah.
We like that Jesus is here now. He's not going to be here at the end of the pandemic. He's not going to be here. I was talking with a friend today on the phone. He was talking about his trip on the Camino, right? Camino de Santiago in Spain. And it's this traditional pilgrimage site that if you're not familiar, you walk usually for weeks, if not months on end, to the resting place of St. James and Compostela and this big basilica. And but there's all these different ways to get there, some really historic traditional paths. And he was saying, I would wake up every morning and like for the first week or so, I was like, I just can't wait to get to the next city. Can't wait to get in it. Once we get to the next town, there's a hot shower waiting on me. There's a comfortable place to rest, an interesting place to see and to visit, take in hot food. And at some point you realize like, I'm doing this wrong, if I'm only happy at the very end of every day, well, I could just do this whole thing by taxi, and just drive to all the towns. If this is a tour,
won't take as long.
Yeah, if this is a tour of towns and that's where the happiness is at, then I'm probably doing. And he started to learn to be more present to the way, which is great because that's what El Camino means, right? It's the way, and that's that we meet Jesus along the way, right? Where did the disciples on the road to Emmaus, the way to Emmaus, meet him? It was en route. It wasn't just once they got to Emmaus, right. Although something really important did happen in Emmaus, and then they go back to Jerusalem. Where do they see him? They see him in Jerusalem again, and it's like he's constantly popping up, and if we don't feel like he's close, that's okay. That's just spiritual desolation. Everybody goes through that. You get this experience of, I'm not experiencing God's nearness. Objectively speaking, is God still close? Always. The answer is yes. So contentment, means you don't have to wait to be happy just because your desires are unfulfilled. It's okay if I'm not comfortable. It's okay if my belly's not full. It's okay if I'm not in a particularly great mood. It doesn't have to rob my peace or my joy.
Yeah, as you're talking, it made me think of the Jesuits. If you're preparing to be a Jesuit, one of the things that you have to do in the process is you have to, I think it's a year, but it might be only 6 months or something, but there's a period of time that if you're preparing to be a Jesuit, you actually go out and you go with nothing but the clothes on your back. Maybe you get a change of clothes, but you have no money, and you basically have to survive for whatever the period of time is. And you do that by just encountering whatever you encounter and making the best of it.
Wow.
And
sounds like a great sabbatical.
Yeah, the principle behind it is just the one of, hey, don't worry about where your bread's coming from. Just live for the day and have faith and what you're saying and find the joy in that. And then I guess that's sort of what tempers the Jesuit in their training to be fully present to the world. And that's very much part of their spirituality, but it comes from that simplicity.
Yeah. They do those 30-day exercises too, right? Where you enter into silence for a month. And that's a thing where if like you're only going to be happy at the end of it, then that's going to be a really, really long, miserable month.
Yeah, very long. Longer than this coronavirus.
There was something else you were talking about, the kind of the sacramental nature of things.
Yeah.
And he gave a definition for simplicity that really reeks of kind of a sacramental definition. He says, simplicity is an inward reality that can be seen in an outward lifestyle.
Ooh, that does echo of the definition of sacraments. Yeah.
Big time, right? So what is that lifestyle? Lifestyle of choosing to leverage time, money, and talents and possessions toward what matters most. So again, simplicity, inward, invisible, interior thing, a virtue, and then it's expressed outwardly in the simplicity of life, right? in the lifestyle of pointing everything that you have towards what matters the most. I just thought, man, that's like maybe the most Catholic sounding thing, and that is his own words.
Yeah.
Besides
it's pretty profound how this guy keeps coming back to principles that we're very comfortable with as Catholics.
Yeah. He quotes Tertullian this time.
Yeah.
He quoted something about Romans not sharing anything with each other except their wives. It was like, whoa. He was like, whereas Christians never share their wives, but they'll share everything else. And I thought it was
that's
really
insightful,
really beautiful. He quoted Tertullian, but it also reminded me very much of something that's coming up in the Office of Readings. Man, I wonder that's either gotta just come up or it's coming really quick. Is a letter to, I don't know how to probably say his name, Dionysus or something like that. Diogenetus. It's a really kind of funny old Greek name. But he goes on and on. If you ever want to look it up, there's an article in Liturgy of the Hours called The Christian in the World. And it really does a beautiful job of kind of spelling out from an early church perspective of what it means to have an incarnational spirituality. It's awesome.
And Dionysius is if you have trouble remembering it, just remember Dennis, because that's my patron. Yeah, Dionysius.
Oh, not Pseudo Dionysus.
No.
Dionysius. Not Dionysus. I'm thinking of another guy still.
Oh, okay.
There's a G in it. Are we talking? Yeah.
I can't think of who you. I know there's.
It's like Diognetus, Diogenetus, something crazy. It's funny.
There'll probably be a new Harry Potter movie with that name in it.
I love it.
Well, folks, give us some thoughts as to what grabbed you in this chapter too, as we're entering into the last phase of tonight. But we'd be interested in hearing what you're thinking. But as you were talking a second ago, that was resonating for me is that whole idea of not focusing on quantity but quality. So trying to have better stuff or stuff that will last. I think of things like in my grandparents' generation, you'd fix a toaster rather than just throw it away and buy a new one. But toasters were heavier and they were built better and so forth. But that was the same for Jesus too. And I think it was the reading this time where they talked about Jesus as the Romans, when they crucified Jesus, cast lots for his tunic. Well,
right.
That was because that was a pretty nice piece of clothes. So it's not like even Jesus was, just wearing garbage.
Right.
He may not have had a lot of stuff, but he had what he needed, and it was good enough that somebody was willing to, cast lots for it.
Yeah, I heard about somebody they said they were kind of like scandalized by their professor or whatever because he had like a $400 pair of shoes or something, right? But he's owned those shoes for like more than 10 years. Like keeps them up and conditions them, shines them up, and they're built to last a lifetime.
Yeah.
It's like how could you be mad at that? Like that's an investment. That's like I never have to buy shoes again. How many pairs of shoes do you have in your closet right now? Maybe $400 worth, and you're going to keep running through that cycle and keep dropping $100 on a pair of shoes once a year or something,
Yeah, there's a lot of things like that in life.
I liked how he was looking to it, like how to apply this to your life, and he kind of said, the question to ask is not what would Jesus do, but what would Jesus do if he were me, right? Like if Jesus was living into 2020, living in the coronavirus, was a 35-year-old male, was, whatever your profession is, so on and so forth. And I think that's fine. I think that's good that he's getting more concrete than he's getting out of the ethereal. But I think an even more concrete way to point that question is just not what would Jesus do if you were me, because that's still like kind of what if that were happening. It's like, what is Jesus actually doing?
Mm-hmm.
Right? We can't talk about him as if he's not here. Like that, what would puts it in the subjunctive. If Jesus is here, then what he might be doing. Is he's here. He's here. He's with us. He's in you. Right? What would Jesus do if he were me? What is Jesus doing while he is in you? And if we live our life like that, then we're all going to become saints, right? So, I love the idea of like where that's trying to go, but I think there's a much better way to say it, and it's what is he doing?
Yeah.
Yeah,
you're right. And that idea of incarnate spirituality, that God is with us, it really needs to permeate our lives today.
And that it's not complicated. It is simple.
It is. Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. Do we have some things for next time that we need to work on in our homework for exercises?
I'm going to take a quick look at the website here. It says for week 6, which begins May 13th. We've got, during this coming week, self-study on the 4 practices of unhurrying your life, on slowing, right? So the chapter this week is on slowing. It's page 219 to 244. We're actually going to go ahead and read through the epilogue also, right? So 219 all the way to 257. That's only 40 pages. So go ahead and finish the book for all intents and purposes, and check out the exercises on slowing. We're going to look at those together real quick. We'll just do a brief overview, right? So exercise number 1, pick 1 or 2 games to slow down in your life. We'll see more what he means by games. Pick 1 to 3, neo-spiritual disciplines from my list or your own imagination. Commit to them for at least a week. See what it does in your soul. Pay attention to the difference in your body as the day goes by. Keep whatever is helpful. Practice presence through art. Interesting take. Number 2, cut 1 to 3 things out of your schedule. Right. So last week, if you made a schedule, here you have a good excuse to pare down your schedule even more. Make it simpler and slower too. If you don't have a schedule, start there. Drop week, month, and life of yours truly. Then delete a few things. I can tell you that is not easy, but it's really good. Exercise. Number 3. Turn your smartphone into a dumb phone. There's a lot of great stuff out there that's actually, I think, being powered by Google, where they're looking for all kinds of creative ways to help people detach from their phones. Like, I think the tech world, parts of the tech industry have realized the monster that they've created, and I think with whatever moral fiber they have left, they're starting to try to curb it a little bit, which I think is really, it's encouraging at least. But there's several different things where, like, I saw one where like it'll drop this little kind of bubble image down on your home screen, right? So you unlock your phone and it drops this little bubble down, and you just see them accumulate through the day. And they start to just fill up like your background image for whatever's sitting behind all your apps. And so you start to see like, oh my gosh, like how many times I turn my phone on to do something. And it even gets as extreme as like you print up like this, it's like a template for an envelope. You put your phone in the envelope, you cut out little holes, and then you fold it over and glue it shut. And it like allows your phone to be only a phone with like numbers that you push. Like you can't, really? So you can't like access your contacts. You can't access it turns on as a phone and you can dial it.
Okay.
Like what do you call it? Like a phone. Yeah. So you can turn your Pocket Genius machine that has enough technology to fly to Mars.
And you can set that so that like kicks in at a certain time every day.
I don't know all the details on it, but if you are interested in going hardcore like that, Google has answers for you. Wow. So there's all kinds of stuff out there like that where your phone can help you dumb it down. And if you're interested in that, go looking for it. That'd be a great thing to do. Exercise number 4. Parent your dumb phone or your smartphone. Turn your devices off an hour before your bedtime. Get a real alarm clock. Read and pray with your phone away. Do some deep work. This is great advice, by the way. Talking about good sleep hygiene. Like it's, your brain actually like starts to shift gears now if you're not in the same room as your phone. I was listening to an interview today. They were talking about like if you don't have your device on you, the symptoms that you experience are similar to what they call it, like lost appendage syndrome or something. Like people who feel like they've lost a limb even though they haven't. They've still got all their limbs. It's a really interesting thing. It's talking about how we're basically turning ourselves into cyborgs, which is sort of frightening. But don't listen to Elon Musk for too long, because the worldview of where that guy's brain is operating, it's everything's going to really like Terminator sort of direction. So yeah, I love, he talks about taking his phone and kind of putting it in a box for the Sabbath. Just puts it away. That might be a great thing to do. What would it be like to walk away from your phone for a whole day? So lots of great options for slowing down, right? Like, what's the opposite of hurry? It's slowing. It might be the most uninteresting at face value, but I think it's actually super essential to this project.
Yeah, and if you're challenged and you say, well, but if there's an emergency or something, I need my phone right there, just remember, what did people do before they had these? We can live back a little bit in history, and people found ways to manage things, or, oh my gosh, I don't know exactly where that person is right now because they don't have their phone on or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what? We can live with that little bit of anxiety for the sake of freeing life up a little bit.
Yeah. There's also some people that are creating phones that are like just smart enough to be useful, but not so glitz and glammy that they can be super addictive, right? So they like the light phone comes to mind. It's like a phone, text, I think like navigation, and maybe like minimal kind of like internet usage. But it doesn't do good with like, I don't think it can play a video, or I don't know if it's holds MP3.
Who would want that?
Right? Like, yeah. So it's like, people who like when they're trying to like ratchet down some of the like efficiency productivity model of their life, and like, I just want to rest this weekend. Yeah. They can like keep their phone number and put the smartphone away and have the light phone. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm attracted to that.
Yeah, I am too. It's great. Well, do we want to make some announcements about our plans for opening? Because things are happening.
Things are happening. So we've had the church open the last 3 days now. We're getting ready to go over there and shut it down for the third day. The first day we had 18 people. The second day we had 18 people. Today we had like 8 people in the afternoon. And I don't know how many people we've had tonight because I've been over here most of the time, but
I think
like one. So one, unless there's been somebody else over there that did the ushers say anything about people coming?
Well, this afternoon they made it a point of, we have more ushers than people.
So suffice to say, I'm making an executive decision to close the church Thursday and Friday because we're talking about being simple and slowing things down. We're burning electricity on lights and AC for basically a big empty church, and it's not the best use of our money. So the church will be closed.
And the other side of that you don't maybe realize too is when we're open, then we have a responsibility to sanitize the church afterwards, and we have to do that with staff, and so there's a lot that goes into that. And
staff's on limited hours right now, and then if we got to pay them to clean the church, it's not why we hired most of them. So we're gonna just streamline that. The church has been open for way more than it has been, and it turns out that not everybody's pouring into the church right now, and that's okay. So we're not like disappointed in you or mad at you or anything, but please don't be mad at us either when we close the church. Opening the church on Monday, we will resume our normal daily mass schedule. So we're going to start again with kind of a normal schedule, 9 and noon on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We'll also have the 7 p.m. So we have planned now. If we go 3 days though, and like we've done 7 masses in 3 days and hardly anybody showing up, we'll probably start to adjust that as well. So again, be free. if you want to come to Mass next week, please come to Mass. We'd love to have you. Look forward very much to having a church with people in it and praying together. And
we will be social distancing, however, so be prepared for that. If the opposite is true and we have, egads of people coming in, well, then we may, and we appreciate your understanding if we do have to turn some people away, because we have to maintain the required social distancing and limited capacity.
Well, then we'll have a lot of sanitizing to do. Yeah. So please, just as you come, please wear a mask, perhaps gloves if you're in the mood for it. Bring your own hand sanitizer, stuff like that. And then just be ready to keep the distance and kind of follow the instructions of the ushers. Please just be as cooperative as possible. It's not going to be business as usual still. So we're just ramping up and it'll be good. So.
You mentioned might have to turn people away. What is the maximum capacity for daily mass? Just so we can see if you have 8 people, where is that limited?
Right. We don't know the exact number, but the principal number is about 25% capacity. But then it depends on social distancing. So some of it would depend if a family or household comes, they don't need the social distance. But if they sit in a certain area, then we have to make sure that we maintain social distancing from them. Also, things like processing for communion and things, we have to manage that so that that is also social distance.
But people shouldn't be worried about getting to the max capacity anytime soon, right?
As best we know, we don't know till we try, but what we'll do is we'll all learn together, and if we're all ready to adapt, our goal is to have people be able to participate. We just have to do it with some tighter restrictions than we're used to.
Cool. Trying to think. There's a good priest of our diocese who typically teaches at the seminary. He's back here now that the school year is over, and so for the next week, Father George Nursey will be here helping out. So you'll see him at Mass. We're going to continue, by the way, as we have Mass open to the public again for daily Mass for the next 2 weeks. We're going to try to live stream that for you guys. We're going to do our best to continue to pump that out digitally every morning at 9 a.m. If we can't get a good stream established, then we'll continue to record, and then it'll be released later, right? So we're going to try and have it for you at 9 a.m. like we have had throughout this time. If for some reason you get on there at 9 a.m. and we're not live streaming, just realize that we'll be recording, and hopefully it'll be up by 10:30. So that'll still be available on some level. And if you need to watch it at 9, no matter what, come rain or shine, and we wind up in a recording situation, you can just watch the day before at 9 a.m. Because I've been having to celebrate the day before at 9 a.m. And this liturgical time travel is strange, very strange, but it's what we got to deal with right now.
Question came in: when will Adoration Chapel be open?
We don't have a word on that yet.
There won't be any public activities apart from just the daily masses next week, and then I think we had some confession times. Yeah, our regular confession times.
I feel like I heard something from one of the priests about adoration, but I haven't.
Yeah, the guidelines. Nothing's there. I think there's guidelines the diocese is setting up,
and it wouldn't be for the chapel. It would just be for in the church.
Yeah, and very limited.
Yeah. So thanks for the question, though. We'll hopefully we'll get back to you with some concrete, practical actions on that. Anything else before we pray?
I think we should pray.
Awesome. Thanks everybody for coming and joining us for our discussion, and hopefully it's proving fruitful for all of you at home. And look forward to seeing you for our last hurrah next week, and then into the future. Hopefully some kind of big reunion. It'll be awesome to see your faces. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Amen. Lord, thanks for the opportunity to gather together like this. Pray for a spirit of simplicity. Lord, help us to be able to really, truly embody interiorly and exteriorly that value of simplicity. To be able to recognize our needs and distinguish them from our desires. And to allow ourselves to experience your joy no matter what the circumstance might be. To not delay our happiness, to find good contentment. Lord, fill us with your peace, your love, fill us with joy. Give us the grace to follow you and to let nothing, especially material possessions, stand in the way. Give us the grace to detach from anything that's holding us back from you. We ask all these things through Christ our Lord. Amen. May Almighty God bless you, the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Amen. Go in peace. See you later.
Thanks be to God.